Welcome back, everybody, to the Halo podcast. I am your host, Noe, and welcome back to another episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the previous episodes. And as always, I welcome your feedback. And if you want to be a part of it, let me know and hit up our Instagram. But today we're going to get into a different topic. This one I enjoy a lot and I think about quite a bit because it reflects a lot of my lifestyle, and I'm pretty stoked to get into it. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce the others I have with me. I have Maria.
Hello.
And we got Rosa today with us. How are you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing good.
Doing good?
I'm doing pretty good, actually.
Okay.
Like, really good.
Yay.
How's your day so far?
You know, I it was good. I went to work. I work with children, so sometimes you never know what's gonna happen with the kids, because they're grumpy or they're really hyper.
Mm-hmm.
But they were really good today.
How
And
early were you up this morning?
so I woke up, I think, at 6:30 today, because I go into work at 7:15. So, but then I had class, and the teacher the professor brought us some, like French bread, because we had presentations today. So she wanted to, a little pick me up. So we had that, went well, and now I'm here with you guys.
Wow.
What about you, Rosa?
I was not awake at 6 a.m. I could barely get up at 9 this morning. I was so tired. I stayed up till like 2 a.m. last night working on the newsletter.
Right.
And yeah, my morning was, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had breakfast. I came here, talked to my best friend.
Nice.
Now we're here.
How's your day been, Noe?
My day has been, it's been decent. I woke up as usual late to my first class. I'm trying to get better at that, but I got there nonetheless, even though I did miss the quiz we did in the beginning, so I missed points on that, but it's all good. And yeah, I just had class, and then went to go talk to one of the assistant directors about this study abroad program that I got accepted in,
Nice.
which is going to be exciting. And I just went to stop by at her office before I got here, just to clarify some things she spoke. But yeah, I'm here, and here we are. Do you guys have anything coming up for this week? Any plans for the weekend?
A lot of homework.
Yeah, I think catching up on homework, I think it's like a never-ending cycle, honestly. I always feel like I have to catch up on homework.
Yeah, I hear ya. What about you, Rosa?
Yeah, just homework. It's finals week next week for 8-week courses, so
Oh, okay.
got that going on. And then midterms week for just regular classes.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just had like a midterm. The presentation I did today was like a midterm type thing. So.
Mm-hmm. I had my midterm last week with one of my new religions class, and then later today I'm going to take my midterm for my geology lab. So yeah, a lot of midterms are coming up.
Yeah, a lot of things to turn in.
Is that just one of your classes, or do you have more than one class? That's
two of my graduate classes.
Oh goodness!
I am not excited. So many papers that I have to write.
Yeah, a lot of papers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of papers. At least mine, it seems like it's multiple choice. The one I got later today, but still gotta study before I get to that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like we got been pretty busy. We had that event Encuentro, so that was pretty stoked. That was my first time going, so that was interesting to see.
Yeah, this was my first Encuentro too, and it was really good. It was good.
Yes, I enjoyed it, and hopefully more people can attend, because it's an annual thing. 18
Right.
years.
Yeah,
I think
18 years.
Yeah.
18th
It's
annual
crazy.
Encuentro.
All right. Well, nonetheless, let's dive right into today's topic. And that topic is climate change. Now, this has been an ongoing discussion for a lot of people, because, of course, climate change, the natural nature, it surrounds us every day, and it's always going to be there. It was here before us, and it's going to be here after us.
Right.
it is affecting us in good and bad ways, right? Because of course, how the state of how it was years ago is definitely not the state of how it is now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And some of the countries are approaching it in different ways, right?
Yeah.
But I want to get into more specifically one country that is currently being affected pretty heavily with climate change, and that is with the power outages that's been happening in Ecuador.
Right.
Now, there has been quite a few talks about this earlier in the year, and probably like once again, it's been brought up a month or two ago, that Ecuador is having to cut down their power tremendously because of like the severe droughts they have over there, and because they run their electricity like hydroelectric power, so hydro dams, right? If anyone doesn't know like how those works, like how it builds up electricity. So it's like a conventional dam that holds water in like a man-made lake that it goes to, right? Or a reservoir, however you want to put it.
Right.
Water is released through the dam, and then it spins like a turbine that's connected to a generator, and that itself like produces electricity, right? And then water returns to the river downstream on the side of the dam, right? So that's typically how a dam works, if like it's structured in a way to where it's supposed to produce electricity. In Ecuador, it's like basically that's their whole thing. That's
Right.
how they get their energy, and yeah, and it's an efficient way to kind of go about it, because they're using nature, not in any shape or form that affects it in a negative way, but like again, it's interesting to see how like some developing countries over time kind of like, while they're in the state of developing, that they're intentional with like how they want to go about like expanding their areas, right? And just being mindful of nature. And that's what seems what Ecuador is doing. And so recently it's been coming up quite recently into where now the president is having to, in a sense, like cut down like how much electricity they have. So I think it was like for a few days to where like basically no electricity, right? Because like they had to reserve it, because if they continue it to be like normal operations, then eventually like it's gonna cut down more of that energy, and they won't have it for like a longer point of time. And yeah, because like it's like nearly 80% of its power, that's where they get it from, Ecuador, from these dams. And yeah, and that's something that stuck out to me, because it's no surprise that some of these natural occurring events that are happening, but more frequently because it's changing, these severe droughts, because like drought is like where everything gets dried up over the areas affected. So the water that's not being able to get to these dams, they don't create the electricity. But what do you guys think about this? Like what do you think about this, Maria, when you saw this? Heard
So
about it?
I like, before reading the article that we're reading, if you guys want to follow what we're like, the article that we were basing our information on is from U.S. News. It's called "Ecuador to Implement Nationwide Blackout Overnight on Wednesday." It came out on September 15th. I'm sorry, of this year, 2024, and like I was honestly kind of shocked that I didn't see this beforehand, because we're talking about a whole country having a nationwide blackout. Like nobody has electricity, nobody has access to turning the light on and off, and like it's just crazy to me. And so I was surprised about like the coverage on this, and I also was surprised about where the officials are taking this, like, because it was kind of also pretty crazy to me that towards the end of the news article, it says, in June, officials blamed a nationwide outage on faulty transmission lines and insufficient maintenance. With reading that, I was just kind of infuriated, because okay, you can blame the outage on things that are being faulty. Maybe they were not made in a very sustainable way, and that's why things are getting a bit messed up now. But like in just blaming stuff, it just leads us back to like square one, because now people are like officials and the government is resorting to just having a blackout as opposed to um, looking for other alternatives, because obviously they might be looking for ways to be supported by other countries and maybe other people who can help them out and lend a helping hand. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, in just knowing that like the article is ended by saying officials blamed a nationwide outage on faulty transmissions, I'm like, okay, so what now? How am I going to be able to read this and just close the tab and be like, oh, people in Ecuador are okay, like it just makes me feel like um not enough stuff is being done. Obviously because I'm not reading about this, because it's not being talked about, but also because it's just like, why are we being complacent about this? Because I'm sure there's ways to probably offer help, but in hear this, I was just kind of infuriated. Like, are people just crossing their arms now and like saying, "Oh, well, that sucks," and that's it, or what's being done? It just made me feel a bit frustrated.
Yeah,
What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. Yeah, that feeling that you're describing, I describe it as like climate anxiety. Just feeling helpless about like seeing everything that's going on in the world. I feel that way with like when I see a ton of different climate emergencies. I'm like, well, what can I do? Like,
Right.
And yeah, when I saw this, I'm like, how are they living? Like, how are they living their
Yeah,
normal
like
lives?
I want to, like, obviously I hadn't looked for like people talking about this firsthand, like people covering what's going on. Like, yeah, right now we have no power and they're like recording live or something. Because obviously I'm thinking maybe they can't hop on TikTok and like live stream or whatever. But also like, it's just, I also don't understand what my place in that would be. Like, I want to help, but how can I help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to look out for those resources, because I'm sure there are, because there's many publishers and articles that are going on this. And Maria just brought up that like the article that she just brought up in September, and then there's another one I have pulled up here that talks about a little bit more into detail, but this came out earlier in May. So it's like, once again, it's being brought up because like they're getting hit with these severe droughts and it's affecting them. And also I think like a big thing that comes into mind with this like blackout, it's like restaurants. No electricity, like they can't store their food like to like a perfect temperature to what doesn't become spoiled. So I can't imagine like the many restaurants and like local cafes and stuff that have to deal with this drought, because some people have to rely on them for food, right? And so that, I think that's like a big factor and a big thing that we gotta also look out for, because like a lot of people rely on some of this stuff, and it's a bit unfortunate that like it has to be like that, because it just goes to show that how much electricity just like propels our lifestyle so much, because like without it, it's like half of like our industry is just kind of collapse in a sense, right? And then we just have to find ways into how we can kind of maneuver about that until we do get into a better place and stuff like that. And this is just like one of the many things that climate change does, because like again, it's like as time is going by, certain natural parks and certain natural views that we all know and love are starting to shift and change into like, in a sense, deteriorate to not become as what they once were in the beginning, right? Before we started to expand and like put down new spaces and like continue to do that, and we are continuing to do so, which is like, I think it's a great thing, right? We're expanding, we're going out there, but I think at the same time it's like I think it's not enough that we're being mindful and like putting effort to also be mindful of like nature around us. Like that is also not being emphasized enough, right? Because there are certain areas that are not being well taken care of as they should be, but I think it's it should be a discussion that's should be continuing to evolve, because like I mean, for me in my case, like if I didn't have no electricity, it's like, for one, of course, my food would go down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no internet, so I can't do my assignments right.
Can't do anything.
And then like depending, like, some people have like gas powered or electric stoves, so I can't even do
Yeah.
that or use microwave. So it's like, for me, like, I would not be able to like function as like what my current lifestyle is. Like, what about for you, Maria? Like, how would your lifestyle be like if you didn't have electricity?
No,
Like,
I'm over here shaking my head. I can't do anything.
Mhm.
Like, I do a lot of stuff on my phone and my computer. With no electricity, you can't charge none of that. You can't
mm-hmm.
do any of that. You can't turn the light on to get ready and do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Pumping gas is also something I was thinking about. Like, you can't like click on buttons because everything might be down on the gas
Yeah.
pump. My car probably. I don't have an electric car. Maybe not. Maybe not. I can use my car probably until it runs out of gas. But at work, like, I couldn't clock in at work if I had no electricity. Obviously, the stoplights and whatnot would not work, so there would be just
Yeah.
chaos everywhere if we had no electricity, or if we had a blackout at the same level that Ecuador has right now. But how about you, Rosa? Like, what would you miss the most if we had no electricity, for
What
example?
would I miss the most? Everything. We're having this same conversation in one of my classes. We were like talking about, what do you need to survive? And we were all like, food, water, shelter. And then my professor brought up, what about electricity? And we're like, nah, we could survive without electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started listing out all the things that
Yeah.
we use electricity for. And I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't even be a student.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to drop everything. I couldn't go to work. Like, yeah, you need electricity. We use it
do.
all the time, everywhere. So
Yeah, we do, and we rely heavily on it. We kind of also goes to show how privileged we are whenever we go like, oh yeah, I could deal with food and water. I could live with that. Then you start thinking about like, wait, no phone, no computer, no way to study, no way to look at TikTok, no way to, so many things. But like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to my mind now that you guys are like talking about it too is like airlines. Like, imagine
Yes.
like that happens while you're
The
in
bank.
air.
Oh,
And-
in the air?
Yeah, while you're already in the
No.
air. Like, they probably. I mean, there has been ways like the pilots, of course, I'm sure they're trained to in any type of scenario what they have to do, but again, it's just I can't imagine like many of like them would have to communicate with one another because it's like it just goes to show like again like I can make a phone call or FaceTime like my friend that's like across the globe, right? I can just do that with my phone, right? And like it's of course just powered by electricity. But again, some people are aware of this, and maybe some of the older generations like have probably have gone through something similar because generators, like some
Right.
people hold generators for such cases as like that.
Yeah.
But
Hospitals.
Yeah, hospitals.
Hospitals.
I that's another thing now you mentioned. I was like, yeah, I wonder how they would even operate.
No. It would just be so much chaos. But yeah, what were you about to say? No, I was like,
No,
about
you're
to
good.
go
Yeah,
into it.
tune in whenever you can. I was just gonna shift the topic a little bit, because like when I first learned about this, and again, one of the things that I'm passionate about is about just like nature in itself. It's like it's very therapeutic. It does so many things for us, and it's just beautiful to look at. Many benefits, right? And for me, like I already just said it, like I find it very therapeutic. So like whenever I'm like mentally fatigued or like like I'm tired, like I need to get some fresh air, and so like I go outside and like walk around like with trees, and that's something that I found myself doing quite a bit, especially after the pandemic. And there's one thing that I came across when I was in community college, because I did it for I think a project, I believe, and I came across this theory. So it's called art theory. Have you guys heard about this art theory?
How do you like
So
R?
it's abbreviation ART theory, but the longer version is attention restoration theory. Have you guys heard about this?
Oh, no, I
I don't
actually
think
haven't.
so.
Okay, so the concept of this is that when you are mentally fatigued, right? So like for us, like, we can only study for so long, and like when we're constantly busy, 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 like we're just done. We can't do anymore, right? And so what this theory tells us is like if we're immersed in nature, or even looking at a picture of like a something like nature, right? That over time our mental fatigueness starts to replenish, and then your attention span starts to like come back into place because of like, when you're looking at nature, it's like it's when you're looking at it, it doesn't take any effort because it's just
Right.
natural, right? Compared to like when you're looking at a lecture, a presentation, or a movie or whatnot, so many things are happening to where like you have to like pay attention to it, it's like be present, right? And then nature just does that without any pressure. Like
Yeah.
you're just
Right.
looking at it because you're looking at it,
Right.
and that's all it does. And then by doing so, and after for a specific amount of time, um, you're no longer mentally fatigued. And this is a theory coined termed by Kaplan and Stephen. Well, their last name is Kaplan, but they are professors. I think a little bit before the 2000s is when they coined the term. And I found this because I did like a little bit of research project, and I kind of like made that as my presentation. It was online, but I did what I could. But yeah, 20 years of exploration these two did with natural environments, and I couldn't find the study done or an experiment or whatnot. But basically, there was a two groups. One group, both like working on something, right? One group was put in just nature in the middle of nowhere, and then the other group was put in to work in the city, downtown city, where like it's like bustling city. And the difference was that the people in nature were more able to sustain their attention for longer than the ones compared to the city, right? To where like there was like little to no nature, it's just all buildings. And then and that's something that I came across. I wish I could have found it and shared it with you guys, but yeah, that's something that I was like, oh wow. So it's like it just goes to show and emphasize more that like this theory, right? That it's true. And then now it's something that I learned about myself after I looked into it a bit more, and I was like, oh, so that's why I like after I go for a walk, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Let's get back into it, right? And yeah, and it's just something that every time I find myself just like literally just like staring off into nature, that it's just a very immersive, relaxing, just therapeutic feeling. And like there's more that goes into it, but that's like the basic of like what this theory and what these two, Kaplan and Stephen, what they proposed, right? But of course, I mean, if anyone wants to like put that into practice, just like literally just do it. Just whenever you feel fatigued or whatnot, you can just go outside and just like for a few minutes just walk around there, and then like once you come back into a space, just notice like where your attention goes.
Yeah.
And
That's
whatnot.
so true.
So like what do you
That
guys think
is
about this?
so true. I feel like every time I go on a walk, I forget how much I enjoy to walk. Because what you said about like whenever you, well, I mean, I guess what they coined as the art theory. Whenever you feel fatigued, it's probably because we're overexhausting ourselves. Like humans were never made to stare in a computer for hours and hours and hours and sit down for hours. So I guess like going back to more our most like I guess primitive like go-to ways to decompress would be to be outside. And you also can like tie that back to like the fact that being outside and being in nature is literally like free dopamine. Like there's nothing that you need to be doing except to look at the trees and look at the wind and like, well, not look at the wind. You can't really do that.
You can feel
like,
it.
Look at the wind, like moving the trees and whatnot.
Right.
Especially right now, it's so beautiful outside. I feel, and whenever I'm outside and I'm like walking to class, I'm like, yes, this is what I was meant to do. And then I have to go in class and like walk in, whatever. But it's so refreshing and it's so like easy to forget because I personally, and I'm maybe somebody watching this, like I resort to like whenever I'm fatigued and whatnot, it's also really easy to pick up my phone and open TikTok. But that is cheap dopamine. Like it'll go away and I'll want to keep consuming because it's just super easy to get hooked, basically,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so easy to consume. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like my my go-to would actually be to go outside, even though I forget how much I enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. It's like we're our generation, the newer ones, like instant gratification. Like we want that
Instant
dopamine,
gratification.
which is like the opposite. Like delayed gratification is like something that's little new or we don't even know about it.
Right, right. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like whenever you're outside, I do get the instant gratification, and it's prolonged. Like I'm outside and I'm enjoying every second of it, unless I get bit by a bug or like start sweating too much. But I feel like it's still super worth it, you know.
Yeah.
Like, do you like to go on hot girl walks, Rosa?
Oh, I
Every now and
used
then?
to love going on hot girl walks. I do the same thing though. I get it like on Instagram or
Yeah.
YouTube, start scrolling, and then you end up feeling more tired and exhausted afterwards
Yes.
instead of getting that relief that you think you're gonna get. But when you go on like a nature walk, then you feel so much better. Like for the
Yes.
rest of the night, you're like, yeah, I'm calm, I'm cool, I can get back at this. Like you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
I've heard about, well, I haven't heard about the art theory, but I've read studies about how we can improve workplaces more by having nature around, even like having plants in the workplace
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and then having green roofs, green walls, and just being able to see nature outside when you're at work. Yeah, so that's very interesting that I've never heard about this theory, but yeah, it's true. Like you feel much more relaxed when you're at work and
do.
their level of production goes up when there's more nature
Yes.
around. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's something that some people not be aware, and then probably anyone that's listeners listening, they're like, oh, like I guess that's why. And like that explains quite a bit. Um, but no, yeah, it's something that always comes up whenever I hear the topic of climate change come up, because it's like these beautiful places that I've been to, like many, like when I've been to Iceland, like it was like so beautiful because like first off you're in an island, right? So come
First
on
off,
now,
yeah.
and but like it's just like the burst of wind that comes through, and like you're at the one of the many beaches where it's cool enough, but then like the heat is giving you the warmth. And like I just remember like I was just like we had an assignment, and like I just kind of sit down and meditated in like the open, and it was just like
Oh, I bet it was
like
magic.
there's nothing that can compare to like anything to one of those moments. And the same thing with Germany, even though Germany is like more like modern, right? Like depending on where you go. But there's still like again like many places we all know of, like those beautiful places that we all want to go to, whether that's Japan, you know, somewhere in Latin America, Italy, and here like Yellowstone Park, right?
Right,
Yosemite.
yeah.
Like when I went to Yosemite for the first time a couple months back during the holiday, or actually last summer, the one not this summer, but the one last year.
summer,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I went there. I had family take me there, and it's just like I think one of my favorite thing is just like waterfalls, because there's so many in not only in Iceland, but then also Yosemite, because like it was during the summer, so it was like warm, hot, but like when you get closer, like especially those big ones like off the cliffs, like you can just feel the pressure and the power that's coming from it. You don't even have to get close, but as you get closer, the sound is harder. You
Oh my
get sprinkled over, and
goodness.
it's just like, and sometimes you see a rainbow because of like the moisture and everything, and it's just like,
Oh wow.
it's just so like I think my family when I went there, they just like were standing in a corner while I was just like being a little kid, just basically playing in the water, because
Yeah.
it's like it just plays that inner child of like just being in the water and being in nature, and
Having
just looking
fun.
at like the massive thing of like what nature can do and what it is, which is like this big waterfall that's going down the cliff. And it's just like it was such one of the many memories that I keep dear to me, because it's just like I can't imagine like 10 or 20 years from now if that's how it's gonna be when I go there
Right.
again, right? Because
Right.
you know,
Exactly. You never know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
with all
because
that.
even though like I didn't know how it was 10 or 20 years ago, like I know how it is now. And then kind of going back to Iceland, because we learned about you know, sustainability and geology about the country. The glaciers, it's basically a good chunk of glaciers is within the island, and we learned about like they're melting, right? And of course,
Yeah.
like with glaciers melting, that, you know, water levels rises, and that kind of shifts basically the environments that like the people are living in. And it's just like you can see they had like photos of like before and after, and you can just see like how much of like the glaciers have melted, and to where some of them are not even considered glaciers. I forgot the term, but like um dead glacier, that's not the term, but I'm just going to call it that for now. Basically, Iceland has claimed some areas that where they were glaciers once, but now they're not because like all the ice has melted
Right.
off, so it's like
Yeah.
not considered even a glacier anymore. And it's just like, again, it's just proof as to like, climate change is like, around us, it's happening, it's taking
Yeah.
place, and that there's not enough effort going on with those things. And yeah, but that's with this attention restoration theory. It's something that I always practice when I have those moments, because it's not many times that I do, but when I do, I take it in, because I never know when's the next time I'm going to take in such beautiful view of that,
Yeah.
Like, and you don't even have to be in Yosemite.
Yosemite.
Yosemite. I was gonna say Yosemite. Okay.
I think
I
that's how I
never
pronounce
know
it
how
too.
to say things like those. Yeah. Anyways, you don't even have to be in what's it, Yosemite.
Yosemite. Yosemite. Yosemite.
Yosemite to be able to actually think about like how tomorrow is not promised. So even when you're having those like moments where like, okay, let me chill, let me go outside, let me like meditate a little bit before going back and locking in, like having those moments where you're like, yes, like this is what I was supposed to do right now. I'm supposed to be outside in nature. You never know when's the last time you're gonna be in nature, because one, you don't know where you're gonna be in tomorrow. As morbid as that may sound, but you also don't know how nature's gonna look like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because grass may not be green someday,
Mm-hmm.
but not to fear, not to like make anybody feel afraid about what our future's gonna look like. But I feel like we should talk about this reality, because awareness is the first step of us making a change. So, like,
Yeah.
even with like little things as recycling and whatnot, like you could make big changes with your awareness and you being mindful of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of like the communities that spread around the countries are doing their best to do that. Um, I know deforestation is another
Right.
big
Yeah.
concern,
Yeah, it
because like
is.
again, it's like big companies just like take out these lands and to put like some type of building or something that's not nature like, right? And it's just like that's how some of like native communities have like lost their place in
Yes.
somewhat,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
that really has affected them tremendously, and they're trying to get their land back and such, right? And so yeah, it's
And water droughts.
yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
big companies also take water from like big reservoirs. I know this happened to me. This still happens in Monterrey. So the Department of like Water and Drainage basically shuts uh, houses and like schools' water so that we can save some, because companies are taking the water from our reservoirs. Yeah, when I tell you I couldn't shower. When I tell y'all
Damn.
I couldn't shower we had to shower with like jugs and like warm up water if we had the
Oh,
chance.
wow.
But like we couldn't flush the toilet, we couldn't like open water and wash our hands. We had to use water bottles and like jugs, which is insane. But it also goes to show like the awareness that we need to have about nature should also be transferred to like holding companies accountable about what they're doing to the world with deforestation, with taking water where they're not supposed to take water from. I mean, also like we have to think about what are they gonna get the water if they don't take it from there, because they need it to produce Coca-Cola or
Mm-hmm.
beer or whatnot. But I don't know. It's just maybe I'm being a bit redundant here, but it's the awareness that really makes a huge change. It's like the first step to changing these things.
Do you think it's gonna get better over time?
I think it's a push and pull kind of thing. It can get better, but it can also get worse because everything is just so polarized. So whenever people think about like, oh, we need to be aware of climate change and like the climate crisis, they label them as tree huggers on behalf of like other people who might be more focused on getting to that bag, like making more money, making more Coca-Cola, making more beer. Um, I think there's a lot of efforts into their agendas being pushed to the other. So we kind of forget about what are we doing towards the better of everybody, not their specific like intention. So I think it can get better. And I'm optimistic that it'll get better. And that's just my personal opinion, because I'm low-key trying to gaslight myself into thinking that everything's going to be fine.
Same.
But I do think things are going to get better, because we're slowly having more like media literacy and like understanding how we can work together through reading online and reading science and facts about what's going on in the world. But what do you guys think?
I struggle with this so much.
Yeah.
Well,
honestly.
obviously, my whole career is going to be surrounded, like, involving climate change. And so the one thing that I want to not do is lose hope. But a lot of the times, you do feel hopeless because you're like, well, what can I do? Obviously, there's different things that we can do. Boycotting is a huge thing we can do. Yeah, people don't realize like how big of that, like that it can affect so many things. Yes,
huge difference.
But I think the one thing that I can say is don't lose hope. That's probably the worst thing you can possibly do. Yeah, and just like educate yourself. Like, what things can you do personally to like change your life that will positively affect the environment? But also, what things can you do with community? Because community is so huge when it comes to climate change. And yeah, again, awareness is so important. We just need to be more aware. And, look at it in the news. What's happening? What can I do about it? Who can I speak to? What people empower?
Right.
Yeah, can I talk to? And yeah, you just don't be helpless. Do something about it. Cause,
really don't lose hope. As cliche and like as unrealistic that might sound, we really are the only things we got.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We really just have to be hopeful, for lack of another word. And also aware. I can't think of a different word, but yeah.
This is like the one thing that all of us as humans have in common. Like, this is the one problem that's going to affect us all at some point. And even if right now we're like, oh, I don't see any effects, like blah blah blah, or like you're living in the United States, you don't see anything. Think about those hurricanes that are happening.
Yeah, hurricane.
Think about the flooding, the droughts. You don't see it as much here, but it is affecting poor countries.
Right.
And it's gonna come for you too, like So we all have to care about this issue.
Yeah. I mean, Florida right now, that's what they're doing with hurricanes. Florida. It's about that time of year, and like that's what they're facing with the fall changing here. And then, yeah, even though there are things such as like recycling and renewable energy, and we're learning about these things, like we still have a lot of work to be done. And it's like when we're learning about these things, like these public figures, right, that are making us aware of some of the things, because like some people, I mean, I don't like to sugarcoat things, even though the truth might be hard to hear, but like it's much needed to be said, right? Whether how hard that truth might be hard to keep in mind, because it's like that's the only way how we know the truth and how we can continue to put efforts and to see the reality of like, oh, this is really happening. Because for me, I think one big thing that stands out for me, like how the climate change has affected like my life, is where 2009, I remember it so clearly. December, Christmas, right? I around that time, like my family that's in Kansas, in KCK, like we would get together in my aunt's house, and I remember the whole night that like December, it's around the time where it snows and it gets cold, and it was right, and it was just so memorable. Not only because like I guess I got like a Nintendo DS, and like I've been wanting that my whole life, right? When I was a kid, I was like a big thing for me. But just looking at it back now, right? Because it's like November is when you start to see snow around that around 2008, 2009 here in Western Kansas, for those listening. And then it ends probably like around early March, where spring starts to come up. And then right now, like it does not get cold or snows until like January.
Yeah,
like until like mid-January or late January. And it's like, so basically like less time of like snow and cold to come in than it usually does. And then like I wonder where that's coming from, right? Because like again, that's like over 10 years of like, 2000 or more than 10 years. So 2009 was like more than a decade is 10, right? Yeah, more than like a decade. And yeah, and then that's just like, to me, that's just evidence. It's like, man, I miss like when it was like snow was coming up, and now there's very little snow coming up here
Yeah.
because
Right. Or when
times are
it
changing.
does, it's so extreme.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I was slipping off the road. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
No, I grew up in Kansas too, and I remember seeing that shift of like, I remember when I was younger, and it would snow, like everything was white, and now winters are really sad and disappointing because like around Christmas time you don't see snow anymore. Like
It's just
so
cold.
rare. It's just cold or
Yeah.
it's just ice.
Right.
Hmm.
Ice. No, 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 no.
Mhm.
It's scary. Black ice is
Yeah.
so scary. I'm
Yeah.
slipping all the time. Watch
Yeah.
me. No, 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 no. Don't like it. I don't like it.
No, I mean, there's like I think I experienced like 2 or 3 bitter blizzards in my lifetimes, and that was like closer to like, around like the early 2010s and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Every now and then when I think about it, I was like, man, I remember this time it was the climate was this way, and I kind of miss it. But we are getting close here to the end, so before we go, I just want to make sure that everybody that's listening is to like just be informative, be curious, be mindful, and just like read and listen and just see like the change happening around you, right? Like maybe you're not aware of it or haven't thought of it now, but now you should, right? Whether that's your attention span is diminishing like after a certain point, and then it's when you go out for a walk, like it comes back, right?
Right.
And even though there are some policies and things being implemented and there is work being done, um like once again, there's more that we need to do.
Yes.
But is there any final thoughts you guys have, Maria, Rosa?
You know, I like to live by this. Again, I think I said this on the other podcast I was in, but I want to say that nothing ever worth doing is gonna be easy. So I feel like take that what you take. Wait, how do you say that? Take that with what you can't. No, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness,
You're good.
I'm struggling to find the words, but um, take that as you will, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean that for, maybe reading some hard stuff on the news, maybe making change about it, or in your personal life. I know a lot of people might be going through it right now. I'm sending some encouragement to you, but we got to keep going, guys. Don't lose hope.
Yeah. Don't
Mhm.
lose hope. And stay informed and figure out what ways that you can help. Like, what petitions can you sign? Who can you send mail to? Who can you talk to in power? Like, send emails to your representatives.
Right.
That's so important. They're there for a reason, and they have websites. So yeah, if you see whatever you see is going on, tell them how important it is that we have more climate policies.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, even though like we're here in the US and like Ecuador is like in another country, it's like there's many things you can do, right? And even
Right.
though it's not happening here, it's like still it's a part of our culture. Like I have friends and family that are from there, and then
Right.
like they,
Uh-huh.
I can imagine like what they're going through or how they feel that their like home is going through these things, and people
Right.
many are being affected by it. But yeah, just make sure you all look out for those, and just be more open, and just ask more questions.
Mhm.
But that is going to be it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can we're on Spotify and YouTube, and you can follow us on our Instagram. It's KSU and underscore Halo. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have we're a bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks is when a new episode comes out. So the next episode after this one's gonna be within 2 weeks. And if you're interested in being a part of an episode, reach out into our Instagram. We would love to have you. And yeah, Maria, Rosa, thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, I enjoyed this conversation. I think we learned quite a
Me
bit,
too.
and
Same.
hopefully the
Yeah.
listeners can take something for this for sure, because I know I have.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so that is gonna be it. And until then, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.